Hey YouTube, it's Shanna. I am not showing my face today because I'm a little sick. I came down with strep throat yesterday, which my son had last week, so it's no surprise that I got it. But I immediately got on antibiotics, which are already helping, which is why I'm like actually sitting down at my art table, even though I kind of just want to get back into bed, but I think I'm going to, I taped this paper down yesterday and I just want to do something easy today because I'm not feeling quite myself. So this is one of my favorite paintings and I think I'm going to play with this concept, but on a 12 by 18 sheet of paper. This is Arches paper. This one. This is, I did this on Fluid 100% cotton paper, which I actually really love. It doesn't have as much texture as Arches, which I actually, for the most part, like that better. And I am a little annoyed. This tape is not sticking. It's not staying stuck to the paper down here. It seems to be everywhere else staying put, but I don't know why it's doing that. But that's okay. I will work around it. I'm getting my water jars uncapped. And this is a pretty, look at all these paintbrushes I have out. These are the ones I've been using lately, my Princeton Neptunes and Heritage brushes. And sometimes I'll grab the Aqua Elite, but that one is really similar to the Heritage. It's super similar. But because this is a big old piece of paper, I might grab a brush that holds even more water. And I'm looking for it. Yeah, Da Vinci Series 418, size 2. I don't know if they're considered round. I think they're considered to be maybe a quill. It's kind of like a quill. Yeah, I think it's a quill brush. I am kind of feeling like changing up the color palette of this painting that I was showing you. And I'm also gonna have to change the composition because this is square and this is not square. And I wouldn't say that this landscape orientation is my favorite, but I'm just gonna do it anyway. I just splattered paint up here, but it doesn't matter. I don't really know what I'm doing right now. I'm not feeling it. I am not feeling it. And actually I'm thinking, I'm not sure if I'm gonna mess with the color palette. I might just kind of go with the one on that other page because my brain doesn't want to really think that hard today. But what I was kind of thinking about was a like purple and orange color palette. I really like that combination and I've played with it before. Whatever I do, I'm eventually gonna put my moon, I'm gonna make a nice big moon up here. So, like those little drips that happened, I am okay with. Although this style that I'm doing today is a little tighter than, it's not like super loose and crazy. It's kind of more controlled. even though it's, you know, abstract. And okay, up here where you kind of can't see, I'm just dabbing off my paintbrush on this cloth. Now when I do these paintings, I do have to let layers dry quite a bit throughout the process. But on the first couple splotches of color, I'm not necessarily worried about if they bleed together. In fact, to some degree, I kind of want them to. If this was a square paper, I would feel a little bit more confident about what I was doing, only because I've painted like that so many times, and I really haven't done it very much on this format. And this is also like, I'm going really big. And usually I paint these pretty small. So I'm just gonna play and see what happens. And when I get to later layers, I will cover up a lot of these first layers, so I'm not being like super precious about it. There's a little puddling over here. I'm just trying to take up the excess a bit so it dries more evenly. Yeah, I think I'm going with this color palette. Oh, excuse me. I just am comfortable with it and not really feeling like being brave and messing around with different color palettes. Okay, I don't know how this is gonna go with this color that I've just mixed. I just mixed like paint that was on my palette with like a light pink, but it's probably darker than I'm really looking for at this point in the painting. It's definitely going to be different than the painting that I showed you to start. Now see, these paintbrushes are so soft. I don't know if you can really see, but let me move you closer. See how the edges aren't like super crisp? That is the problem with these paintbrushes, especially on this paper. I might actually have to switch to a different brush because I don't want to work that hard to get a crisp edge, and this brush is just so soft. But if I use this Princeton Heritage, it probably won't give me as much of a hard time. When the brush gets a bit more dry as you're painting, as the water is coming off and the brush is getting drier, it just creates that like dry brush look. I don't know. So now I'm having to like work a little harder to get that sort of crisp edge that I'm looking for. I'm going to switch to my size 16 Princeton round Heritage brush and see if that behaves a little bit better. I'm looking to go, I think I'm gonna go with like a lavender. It's almost a blue. I actually think this paint is actually lavender. Like, it's a Holbein paint. So that's the next color I'm gonna use. Oh yes, that brush is so much better. And truly, you know, really you just learn these things by experimenting with different paper and different brushes and figuring out what you like and what effect you're going for in a certain painting. I would say it just takes a lot of practice to get to the point where you kind of know what you need to do. It's just practice, lots and lots of practice and lots of failure along the way. When I used to start a painting, even a painting like this, I would feel very uptight and nervous in the beginning, like not knowing if it was going to turn out good and feeling like this. A lot of times I always just felt like this painting is not going to be good at all. And sometimes they weren't, but I've learned that if you just keep going and persevering through the challenging parts, it gets a lot easier to start a painting when you kind of know that there's a good chance if you just keep going, it will turn out okay. And also, I've painted in this style so much that I almost don't have to think too hard about it anymore. It just comes naturally. And then, you know, like I'm loosely looking at this other painting to kind of guide myself in what I want to do. But I'm not trying to recreate it exactly, although I do that sometimes. This one, I'm not doing that, but that is my inspiration. And when I'm not sure what to do, I can look to this as a guide and just say, okay, what color do I want to use next? And that's why I'm using basically this color palette with some modifications, because I don't want to think about it, and I already know that that is a color palette that works. And then the colors that I'm adding that aren't quite on that other painting are colors that I'm comfortable with, and I kind of know that they will go together with the other colors I'm using. I think I'm at a point where I need to let this dry because I want to start going in with some darker values, but I don't want them to bleed. I want to get really crisp edges out of the next layers. So I need to let this dry. And the thing is, Arches paper being 100% cotton and being like super thirsty, it is, yes, I can blow dry it and speed the process along, which I may do, but it's really nicer if you just let it air dry. But it also takes a really long time to dry. So, you know, again, these things come with practice. And personally, I can't always, I don't know why I taped this to the table. That was really silly. But yeah, this tape is just not staying on. This is just painter's tape, like delicate surface. I would not recommend it. I don't even know it was actually in my garage. So I'm just trying to use it up. But it is not sticking at all to this paper, so I don't know if I should just retape it. I think I better retape it because, again, with the darker the darker values and the next layers that I want to do, I do want to hit the edges of this, and I want the edge of the painting, those dark values to hit that edge, and for there to be an edge then when I take all the tape off. So I know that going into this, and I'm planning for that. It's, yes, I could painstakingly not use tape and I could just like paint up to the edge, but that is way too time consuming for me. So taping it just works a lot better. So I'm gonna pause here. I will be back to put more layers on, and in the meantime, I'm going to either let this air dry or blow dry it, and I will retape it, but I'll spare you that on camera because it's kind of boring. So I'll be back. I am back. This is dry. I have my next color kind of ready to go, but then now I'm realizing that's not the color I want to use next. The color I'm going to use next, I've just decided in this moment, is, I believe it's called Verditer Blue. I don't know if that's the way to say it properly, but that's how I'm saying it. Okay, yeah, that's definitely the color I want. I am going to, oh gosh, I did not get enough paint ready to go. I'm going to start going in with some darker values, although this isn't really darker, so. And I actually did end up taping. I just taped the bottom edge because I'm pretty sure that's the only edge I'm going to touch with my really dark values. I think, yeah, I think that's my plan. So I didn't want to retape the whole thing since I don't need it. Okay, I'm flicking water all over this painting. Oops. I want to go in with like a teal color next, I think. I'm trying to get a decent amount of this color mixed up so that I can quickly go back in and grab more of it, since I am painting bigger on this sheet. Yeah, this probably, I need to be using a bigger brush is how I'm feeling with this right now, but it's just, this is the brush I'm using right now, so that's that. It's just not enough to cover the area that I want to cover, and then I have to keep going back in to grab more paint. I think I said I don't usually paint these this large, so it's not as intuitive for me and not as natural. It's more work than normal for me. So I'm looking at the other painting, and I think I want to incorporate this sort of cobalt purple, which I don't actually have cobalt purple, but I know how to make it. It's basically, I mean, I figured out how to make what I think is cobalt purple, so I'm using opera pink, and I'm gonna mix it in this other purple that I already have going. And then I'm gonna grab some ultramarine blue. That makes a good cobalt purple. And the opera pink is slightly granulating, so it's almost actually very similar to, if you've ever used, I think it's Winsor & Newton cobalt purple. Their cobalt purple is really gorgeous, and I since bought Daniel Smith's version of it, and it's way darker. It's not the same at all. So now see, that is probably too dark for what I'm going for. So I'm just gonna like dip into my dirty water and water this down a bit. And I'm thinking about, this is still wet, but I'm still going to go, see, I need more opera pink in here. This is leaning more blue than I was aiming for. Let's try this. Yeah, this is not the right brush. Not the right brush. Yeah, this is way darker than I was anticipating, but that's okay. I'm not sure if the composition is going the way I want it to, but you'll be surprised when I add in the final layers that will be very pigmented, how much it will come together when I do that. I'm looking for a different brush. Oh, here we go. I'm gonna switch to the size 24. Woo! We're going from a 16 to a 24. I don't even have anything in between. Actually, I do. I have an 18, but it's the Neptune. I don't think I want to use the Neptune. I'm gonna use the Heritage. I never use this brush. It's so big. And like I said, I usually paint pretty small, so this should be interesting. I'm not sure I like this, but I think it's gonna be okay because I'm gonna cover a decent amount of it up. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna blow dry this, and then I'm going to mix up a really dark teal, and so I'll be back to do that. Okay, it's dry again, and I mixed up a big old batch of like a really dark, kind of like a dirty, well, yeah, a teal, bluish teal color. So you can see how I'm going in with this darker value compared to what I have already on this painting. I'll probably, oh my gosh, I mixed so much paint and I'm still like blazing through it with this big piece of paper. Yikes, I'm running out of paint. This is not good. Maybe I don't love working on this big paper. I'm not prepared. Okay. So that's a nice big blob of teal. I like that. That's nice. And I'm keeping in mind I'm going to put a big metallic moon right here. But so this is going to lighten up a bit as it dries, but I'm going to let it fully dry because I know that my next value may be my last value and it will be my darkest. So I will mix up a super dark blue, Prussian blue leaning towards like a Payne's gray effect. So I'll just mix like a bunch of crazy colors until I get it where I want it. So I want something like this, that darkest value there. See, that's what I'm going for in my next layer. And then after that dries, well, actually, I'll probably do the metallic moon. And then once all of this is dry, I'll go in and do some writing and pencil work over top. Yeah, I mean, I can just kind of tell that I'm not a huge fan of this orientation of this paper. I would rather it be square, but I still think it's actually gonna turn out pretty good. There's like a little mark on my paper. I don't know what it is, but it's not coming off. Anyway, let me dry this. What I'll do here is, so I have in this palette, that's where I mixed that last teal. So I'll mix my blue there so that the color is sort of harmonizes a bit with the last color. That's kind of a good tip in general. If you can harmonize your colors by kind of using the same color throughout. I know I said I was going to mix this. I meant to do it off camera just because it's kind of time consuming and maybe not exciting, but perhaps it's good to see how it's done. So I'm like, I have a lot of water here, but I want this to be super dark. So I'm going into my wells of paint and just grabbing as much pigment as I can, and then I'm dropping it into this water, and then I'm re-wetting my brush, so each time it's getting darker. I'm using a variety of colors. I don't have their names handy, but it's just basically variations of like dark blues. It doesn't really matter. I mean, if you have a Prussian blue and like a indigo or Payne's gray, you can get to like a really dark blue. So let's test it over here. See, it's not even as dark as I need it to be. And the problem with this is I want it to cover a big area. So this is going to take a lot of paint to achieve. And if I do it and it's not quite dark enough as what I want, I'll just do another layer after. Oh my gosh, there's a cat hair. Ooh, that's a long one. All right, that looks like so dark, but you'll be surprised maybe that once I actually put it down on the paper, it doesn't look as dark as... Okay, that's pretty dark. Now I just have to like not run out of paint. I mean mixed paint that I've mixed. Painting bigger like this, definitely more of a challenge than on a small 8x8 piece of paper. So much easier on a small paper, but it's working out. The other thing is this will lighten up as it dries, so I may not be completely satisfied with it. Oh, okay. I think that's probably going to be dark enough. That's my guess. I'm just kind of getting some of that pigment out of my brush so I'm not wasting it before I clean off my brush. And I did that by just dipping into my water and then quickly going over and brushing that paint, water, and pigment out into my palette. Okay, that is wet, but I can work on my moon next. And I don't know what I did with my... I have like a circle tracing kind of thing. I don't know where it is, but I think what I'll do, I'll just grab my tape and see, because I really want this to be big. This is the biggest tape roll I have, so I think I would actually like it bigger than that, but I just don't know. I think it's upstairs. I think my little tape, or my little circle thing is upstairs, so I will just use this. I'm looking for my gold, where are you? My gold Prismacolor pencil. So that's what I'll use to trace my circle. Sometimes when I'm working and I'm, say, painting circles, I don't trace it because I don't really care if it's perfect. But for some reason, when I do my little moons, I like them to be more of a perfect circle. Okay, so I found that I really like using acrylic paint for these circles rather than metallic watercolors because it really just pops a little bit more. I have golden fluid acrylics. My favorite, I think, is this iridescent gold deep. And then I bought iridescent gold fine in this huge bottle. I don't love this quite as much, but I think I am going to use this one for this painting because, well, no reason really, just that's what I feel like doing. It is lighter. The deep is a bit darker, so this comes out a little bit lighter, which I think is what I'm going for. So I just like drip the paint onto my little circle and then I spread it out. And then of course I just add more as needed. And that little mark that was bothering me, I happened to cover it up without even trying, so. These golden fluid acrylic paints are so nice. I like the fluid aspect of them. I'm not like such a fan of heavy-bodied paints, but they're so pigmented. I mean, you can't go wrong with golden, right? It's super high quality paint. They're so pigmented, and despite the fact that they're very fluid paints, very watery, the pigment just goes such a long way. They're not cheap, but because the paint goes such a long way, you know, depending on how big you're painting, but and I'm obviously not using a watercolor brush for this. I don't use acrylics on I don't use any of my watercolor brushes for acrylics. Acrylic paint just really never fully comes out of the brush. So that is not recommended. Okay. Oh my gosh, this is kind of turning out pretty good, I think. My blue here, a really dark blue, is still pretty wet. So I'll have to come back after it's dry, fully dry, to finish this painting. As I dried that, I realized it's not enough. I need one more layer of blue. I'm mixing this again in the same place. I'm gonna lean this a little more blue. So I was dipping into my like indigo and Payne's gray before, and now I'm really just going into my dark blues. That's what I wanted. Okay, so I kind of moved everything else out of the way since the rest of this painting is going to be done with pencils and gel pen. For some reason I'm having trouble with my pencil sharpener because my pencil is sharp and I was trying to still sharpen it, and yeah, that's where I'm at today. Not doing so great. I definitely do not feel very well, but I'm gonna try to finish this so then I'll have a video to post. Because I do feel like, in general, finishing a painting in one video is nice. Maybe not necessary or always possible, but... So next I'm going to do some of my handwriting that is illegible. It will have a meaning to me, but it won't be legible on the paper, so. Okay, I really like that. I'm still glancing at my other painting. See how similar they are? It's funny. Anyway, I'm just glancing at it as an inspiration, not so much like a copying. Let's take off this tape and see what the edge looks like. I want to do some extra little circles around the moon because it's so big and this paper is so textured. I'm not sure that the gel pen is going to be the best choice, so I'm going to try it with the colored pencil. Got a little crazy with that. I think I want to say this is done. I guess I'll sign it. Yeah, I think that's it for now. I don't know that there's anything else I would do to this. I think I just have to sit on it and kind of fall in love with it a little bit more. I always feel a little unsettled when I finish a painting and then it grows on me. So I don't want to give any final opinions really, but I'm happy with it. I think that it's a little big brother painting to this one. And that's kind of fun. Thanks for watching. Bye.